We roam around in crowded masses in cities. We are the most connected generation in history. We are just a click away from each other. So, are we free? Or are we truly experiencing the deep freedom of unconscious loneliness? Why are we the most unconsciously lonely generation in history? So, if the solution isn't more connection or more clicks, do you think you're free? Sorry, you're wrong. You're just an illusion. Come on, let me tell you where and how to find deep and conscious loneliness. In this video, I'll explain how solo driving and 2,000 years of Stoic wisdom come together and how to create your deep and conscious loneliness. Our parents didn't teach us how to be alone. From the moment we wake up, life's hustle and bustle begins. City noise, phone and email notifications, the need to agree with others' opinions, approval and validation. We feel compelled to stay connected to each other, to be part of the social media flow, as if it were oxygen. We think it has to be that way. We fear silence. Yet silence is not the enemy. It is the most natural mirror in which you must face yourself. Modern life imposes on us the idea that we must live as social beings and promises us that more digital connection means less loneliness. Throughout human history, we have never been so connected to each other and yet so alone. We no longer talk to people or share with them. It's as if, as William Shakespeare pointed out, we are performing on a theater stage to get the approval of others. Our value, our existence, and our essence are measured not by pixels on a screen and our performance. Every like, every message on the screen keeps this illusion alive. Being visible is everything in this modern life. But deep down, we know that loneliness is not about showing people who we are, but about who is missing inside us. We have forgotten how to be alone with our own thoughts. We have forgotten how to spend time with ourselves, to look into our own mirror in silence. We've forgotten how to breathe without being controlled by others, how to feel without sharing on social media. That's why we flee from crowds, from silence, from stillness, from ourselves. We fill that emptiness inside us with noise because silence forces us to face ourselves in the mirror. And when we face ourselves, we begin to grow. That's why solitude scares us. It reveals what the connections on our screens hide. I'm sorry, my friend. You escape loneliness not by joining the crowd, but by becoming one with yourself. And that's exactly what riding alone teaches you. It's not a break from everything. Quite the opposite. It's the key to reconnecting with yourself. Driving alone is not about running away from yourself. It's about facing yourself. When driving alone, you cannot hide behind internal conversations, distractions, or the approval of others. Only you remain, your thoughts, the sound of your movement and the flow. And that is where the real life experience begins. The road becomes a mirror in which you begin to recognize yourself. Every fear, every doubt, every insecurity you carry brings you closer to yourself. At first, you will feel uncomfortable. You will want to fill the silence. You will want to check your phone, talk to someone, take a coffee break. Sorry, my friend, you are not on a theater stage, and unfortunately, there is no one to perform for. The only audience is you on the road and your own mind. And this is where it all begins, where being alone starts to turn into strength. When you stop resisting the silence and your inner self, you begin to hear yourself again. Your thoughts stop blurring, your senses sharpen. The sound of the wind replaces the noise of the world. You are now in the flow. No one can come between you and yourself. You understand. Being alone is not being in a void. It is creating space for yourself, to think, to breathe, to find and remember who you are without external voices external reactions, or noise. Stoic philosophers understood this long before modern psychology emerged. Freedom is not found in crowds. Freedom begins and develops in the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Man cannot find a quieter and more peaceful refuge than his own soul." Driving alone, being on the road, gives you just that, a moving, enormous temple. With every kilometer, it strips away every layer that does not belong to you, until only awareness and yourself remain. Solo riding teaches you three fundamental truths. First, awareness. The less dependent you are on your surroundings, the more you see, the more you feel. Second, self-sufficiency. Every decision you make, every situation you face, belongs only to you and concerns only you. There's no one to blame or rescue. Third, harmony. As you synchronize with movement, your need to control the world and what is happening diminishes. All these lessons don't just stay on the road. They permeate every cell of your life. When you sit quietly after an argument with someone, when you walk alone after a failure, when you choose to think instead of react, you realize how all of these are a mental process permeating your life. That's when you become free. Riding alone trains your nervous system and your uncertain thoughts, trains you to remain calm in uncertain situations, trains your mind to focus without the approval of others. The question is no longer, who am I with? But who am I becoming? And once you feel the peace, clarity, and freedom that comes from being alone, you no longer fear loneliness. Because you were never alone to begin with. You were just waiting to meet yourself. The road is a teacher that teaches you about life. Every solo ride is like a small experience for life. The art of moving forward in life alone and on your own without getting lost. When you've been on the road long enough and far enough, you realize that being alone is not something you run away from, but something that brings you closer to yourself and helps you grow. The lessons you practice on the road, awareness, patience, self-confidence, become the very mindset that carries you through life. You are like a ship battling big waves in a storm. This situation becomes the way you manage chaos in life. Taking the turn calmly and confidently becomes facing conflict without panicking. Riding alone is not an activity. It is the exact mirror of life. When you are on the road, on that iconic machine, you learn the difference between loneliness and peace. Loneliness asks, who will fill this silence? Peace answers, no one needs to fill it. And once you touch that silence, you no longer build your life irreversibly around noise. You build it around your own existence. Being alone, facing yourself, does not separate you from people. It teaches you to connect with them more deeply, because you no longer approach others to conform to them, but to share with them. Relationships become a choice for you, not a necessity. Work becomes a creation, not an escape. And freedom no longer lives in the outside world, but within. That's why the lone driver, in movies, books, and other platforms, often appears calm, distant, even mysterious. He becomes a subject of curiosity, not because the lone driver has escaped the world, but because they have found themselves, become free, and now see the world as they wish. Because they have learned the one truth every journey teaches. They have found themselves. They are free. Peace is now their wings. Every journey begins alone, but not every motorcyclist learns to make peace with it. If you've ever felt the tranquility of that silence, the peace that comes after miles and thoughts, then you already know this truth. Being alone doesn't isolate you from the world. It heals you. It introduces you to yourself. Now, solitude is where the noise ends and reality begins. So here's one last question for you. When was the last time you were alone on the road and faced yourself? Share that moment in the comments. Perhaps your silence will help someone else find their own voice.